City of Stevens Point Common Council meeting, recorded August 15, 2022.
I know we're a little bit behind, but I know there's still people signing in. I think we're just about ready now. I'm going to keep an eye on people coming in late to the meeting. So Cormac, would you come here and do the honors, please, and call this meeting to order?
Just tap it twice.
A little harder to tap. Perfect. Thank you. I will call the regular common council meeting of the City of Stevens Point to order. Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Christensen.
Here.
Shore.
Here.
Keemer.
Here.
Zarazua.
Here.
Johnson.
Here.
Carlson.
He's here, I can see him.
Here.
Kneebone.
Here.
Here.
Shuda.
Here.
Dalton.
Here.
Fischler.
Here.
Morrow.
Here.
And everyone is present. If you would please join me in our salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all for joining us this evening. Anybody who may have come in late, if you have not signed in yet at the table, I need you to please do that at the table off to my left. McKenna, once everybody's in here, if you could bring those slips up, and we'll have those at the end of the meeting. So first, you'll notice that we're testing a suggestion from some discussion we had last month and move the public comments to the end of the meeting. We'll also adhere to the 3-minute maximum, as we had talked about. Like most of you, I still disagree that this is the best way to handle comments from the people we work for, but I'm always willing to try to see if there's a better way to do things. It would be foolish and arrogant to think that there was only one way to do something, so we'll see how that goes tonight. Thank you, McKenna. Lots of things going on in our city. We've got the new turf installed at Community Stadium. The Jumbotron is up and running, and we've had our first game. This Thursday, we have a fundraiser for Justice Works called Jammin' for Justice at the Point Brewery's newer outdoor patio. Saturday is Beer and Cheese for Pets, Please, a fundraiser for the Humane Society of Portage County at Phelps Dairy Farm. And of course, we still have live music options on Wednesday and Thursday too, but summer is winding down. We also had a pretty contentious referendum question last week, and that vote was canvassed and certified today. I've said it before, and so have others, it didn't have to come to this. Division Street has certainly lived up to its name. We are now more divided than we were even in 2014 when our community last had this discussion. Rebuilding without looking for some improvements would be irresponsible. I don't think anyone, including the Southside businesses, would be in favor of that. The council was presented with a preferred alternative. That doesn't mean it was perfect and couldn't be improved upon or modified either. It was a starting point. When that infamous September 2021 meeting happened, it seemed clear that even though we had had public meetings, invited stakeholders for input, and a host of other ways to attempt to get the public involved, we still had work to do. Keith, you're on here twice. Why'd you sign up twice?
Well, because I thought number 3 was the new public speech, so that last one,
Gotcha. So throw that one out. Perfect. Nearly 50 people showed up and expressed concern at that meeting. The vote could have been postponed for a month to try and address those concerns, but it wasn't. It also seems like since that day, people have begun to dug their heels in and escalated from there. It was almost as if neither group wanted to acknowledge that there could be merit in the concerns of the other side. Well, here we are today. Your staff is in the process of putting together no less than 4 referendum questions to get permission to do our routine work in 2023. We'll have to have a special council meeting before August 30th to approve those questions to meet the deadline for the November ballot. And while the big vote is over, the jabs are still flying. Someone said, oh, that wasn't the majority. There's 26,000 people in Point. Well, it was a majority of the voters that showed up. By that argument, none of us here were elected by the majority. Even state and national elections could be questioned. Is that really where we want to go? Some said, oh, the other side won on lies. Well, I can tell you that a yes vote wasn't going to fill your potholes or give everyone a free monkey wrench. To say that the presented alternative is the only way this road can work is also wrong. To say that bike lanes are driving this is wrong. To say that the DOT won't approve any other design is wrong. To say that we wouldn't be able to receive any grants for any other design is also wrong. Someone said we should trust the experts. No one's trying to say not to, but even the experts will tell you there's almost always more than one way of doing something. We had our expert staff talk about Stanley Street when the road diet was being considered years ago. They were critical of it. The council at that time chose to disregard the advice of our staff and seek that of an engineer from out of state who was more aligned with what was wanted to be achieved. Which experts should we trust? Experts have differing opinions too. That doesn't make them right or wrong, and it's okay to work with the experts to explore other options. Others said, why scrap a plan that's been approved? Well, we only approved moving to a 30% design, and who said anything about scrapping anything? We should continue to make improvements, and that's what's being suggested. Council was presented with one option, that's it. It's okay to question it. Can we make it better? Yes. It's far from complete, but what about other options? Would they work? Maybe. That's what item 15 is about. It's not about scrapping anything and starting over. It's about taking another look at options that may not have been fully considered. And maybe the 434 proposal isn't the answer, but it's a starting point. Others said, don't cave to small businesses. They don't drive the bus. I don't see anyone caving. I see a majority of voters who have concerns, and I want us to acknowledge those concerns to see if we can work towards a solution. Are you really suggesting that we don't listen to the voters? Are you suggesting the three-lane advocates stand their ground and fight rather than accept the results and try and move forward? I certainly hope not. And I'm definitely not for advocating storming Gold Key Motors or any other business for that matter. That's not who we are. Others say it's too expensive to have other designs, or we've already paid $1 million for that design. It's fiscally irresponsible to spend more money. I put it to you, it's more irresponsible to not consider other options. We've already spent a ton of money on the road design from 2014. That was scrapped, and we designed and built the Hoover Overpass instead. We approved a bid that was nearly 40% higher than estimates to paint bike lanes in the city. We're okay with spending money on an advisory referendum for marijuana use when we already had a state referendum that passed overwhelmingly. Excuses are not moving us forward towards a solution. Placing blame is not going to get us there either. What I'm asking for is that we work towards a safer, efficient corridor for everyone and not disregard the concerns of anyone. We can't expect to find a solution that works for everyone, but it's clear to me that there are better solutions than what we've got. We estimated about $300,000 to further explore options on a $50 to $60 million project that will be here for multiple generations. Would you be willing to spend 0.6% of a major investment to ensure that investment is sound? Would you spend money before buying a house to have it inspected? Would you take a used car to a mechanic before making the decision to purchase? Would you pay for a financial advisor to look over your retirement portfolio? Or do you consider those expenses to be fiscally irresponsible? I added an item to today's agenda to see if we might be able to come back to the table. We have not only Business 51's much needed reconstruction in jeopardy, but as I mentioned earlier, no less than 4 significant transportation projects in 2023 that are also now in jeopardy. We will now have to dedicate more resources to do work that is generally seen as routine. That's a terribly inefficient way to operate. If that 434 suggestion doesn't work for you, that's fine. I'm not saying my way is the best. I'm asking that we find a starting point. Any starting point that isn't one of those bookends that we have now, all or nothing. The answer lies somewhere between those bookends. I once again urge everyone to take a step back, breathe, regain focus, and see if we can't find some other understanding of the other side's perspective. You know, bullies are defined as someone who attempts to intimidate or coerce. That could be said about many people on both sides during this past vote. We're not bullies. We're still one community. We all use the same roads. We all still support our local businesses, and they'll still support our fundraisers. We just need to stop thinking about how our side can win and to start actively listening and try to understand. As I said, the public comment section has moved to the end of the agenda tonight, but we're going to ask that anyone who wishes to speak to the mayor and council on a specific agenda item other than a public hearing should register their request at this time. Yes?
I'd like to request item 16 to be moved to the beginning of the agenda, where it's
Okay.
always been.
I was also going to request that.
Okay, so we have a
did not-
motion?
We did not vote on that.
No, you didn't, but I thought it was worth trying.
Why?
You- Well, because there was a discussion. Someone thought it was important enough to bring it forward as a discussion item. Why wouldn't we try it?
But not important to vote on?
We didn't vote on it. That was the council's choice.
Exactly. That's my point.
They took no action.
Right.
Right. So you're saying because you didn't take action, you don't think we should try anything?
No.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second to move item 16 to the front of the agenda. Discussion.
Mayor, I have a question.
Sure.
I just was wondering why the specific reasoning was that you put it at the end of the agenda to try it, but what were you hoping to achieve by doing that?
Just see how it worked, because it was important enough for Alder Shore to bring it forward. There was a discussion on it. It was important enough for us to discuss. No action was taken because there wasn't a consensus.
Although it gives the public a perception that council put it on there at the end.
Oh, absolutely not. This is 100% my idea. Does that change anything?
Okay, it was your idea. Great.
Why did you
Thank you for
wait
the clarification.
and not tell anyone before? Why didn't you say anything sooner?
It was published in the agenda, which is what we do every time,
How come they didn't know about it until now?
because they see it when they get the agenda. That's how it happens every month. What's your concern?
Unilateral moves,
How so?
you're not a king.
No one.
Mayor, she outspoke at the.
No
county
one,
board
wait a minute.
meeting.
We're talking about the agenda item. So, you're right. I am not a king. But the chair, just like every other chair that serves on this body, has the authority to set the agenda order. And that's what I did. Well within my state authority. Is there a problem there?
I think that it's inappropriate.
Thank you for your concern.
Yep.
That authority is granted by the state. And subsequently Robert's Rules of Order, which is what we follow.
Okay.
So there's nothing out of line there.
I'm expressing my displeasure in your movement.
Thank you.
That's it.
Thank you. Other comments?
I just wanted to bring it up. I appreciate your willingness to experiment, but I think the logic of taking no action generally means that we decided not to move forward with a yes. So that was my surprise, but also considering that the last item on the agenda is the one many people are here to speak, I think it's reasonable to put the non-agenda at the beginning because it's
Okay.
usually a brief discussion.
All right. So I'll note that we're in favor of keeping it at the front of the agenda in the future. Absolutely.
Yeah, and thanks, Mayor. I'll just say kind of what I took away from the discussion last month, which I indeed requested. No, it didn't meet with a lot of favorable response, and that was fine. I appreciated the chance to have the discussion because it was good for us to talk about what has tended to happen under that agenda item. And so we did. We had a good discussion of concerns about the level and quality of the comments and what happens there. Just last point quickly on the 3-minute limit. I actually think that some flexibility on that. I actually think that that's called for. It's that flexibility has worked generally okay. The one exception I think is any time that we have just a huge number of commenters, that's a time to be more strict.
Great. Glad to hear it. Anyone else wishing to comment?
Wait, so is this the chance to comment?
On the action item?
Agenda 16?
Yes. moving agenda 16 to the next agenda, I assume the next agenda item?
Wherever you'd prefer, at the top.
You saw where I preferred.
Okay.
So,
At the top, yes.
okay. It would be moving item number 16 as the next agenda item.
So are we on agenda item 16?
We are not. We are talking only about moving that item forward, so it's not at the end, rather the next agenda item.
Got it.
Any comments there? I'm glad, because I believe it makes sense too. I can, well, once we vote, I can consider this whole matter closed. All those in favor of moving up the item, please, oh, wait.
One final point. I don't necessarily, I don't know that the council or myself personally has made any statement as far as whether we prefer the beginning or the end. I think the displeasure was more about it being done without any type of a vote. I don't know that there's been any kind of a decisive vote taken as far as what preference is. So I still think that's a discussion for the future.
Oh, okay. So we're not done discussing whether it should be first or last?
I think that's still a discussion to be had.
Okay, because every chair gets to set the order of their agenda, so next
Agreed.
month you could see the same thing, or somewhere in the middle, or
I fully agree with that.
other items might move around.
Yep.
That's how we set the agenda order.
Yep.
All right, glad to hear it. All those in favor of moving the item up, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
No.
Oh, sorry about Ron. Sorry, Ron, I forgot it. Who said no?
No, I said aye.
Yep. Yes, Ron, we got it. Alder Shore voted
Okay.
in opposition, but by voice, I believe the motion carried. We are going to move item number 16 up. Persons who wish to address the mayor and council for up to 3 minutes on a non-agenda item. Any older persons wishing to speak?
I was on the, I put my.
You're on paper?
Yes.
Excuse me, fair enough. We usually afford the alders the opportunity to do that. Outside of this, but since no alders wish to speak on the non-agenda item, then we will move up to, it's hard to tell now. I think that's a 16 or a 15. Craig, did you want to speak on the non-agenda item? I don't know where Craig is. Oh, there you are. Did you want to speak on the non-agenda item?
Actually, I was looking at 9 and 15.
9 and 15, okay, I can't tell if it was a 15 or a 16, my fault.
Well, it depends on what people are talking about with item, item 16. If it's something-
16 is a non-agenda item, the same thing that we have every single month.
I understand,
Non-agenda.
but I just didn't know whether or not my items are the same as the items that you're going to discuss.
Oh, you're right, that does change things. All right, let's see, 9 was sidewalk assessment. And, Aecom. All right, we'll get those changed. Fran has item B51, I don't know what. Are you referring to what's listed as item 15? Where's Fran?
I'm here.
Are you referring to what's listed as item 15?
Yeah. Is it? Okay, yeah.
Item 15. Is that there? Okay. Carrie Ryan has item 15 maybe, and item 16. So, Carrie, go ahead.
I'm here because I'm not super happy with the way you've led our community through this. I think you've talked out of both sides of your mouth. I think you've given people wishy-washy information. We might do this, we might do that. I don't know if you've ever written a grant. Have you talked to the DOT about this, or are you just using, yeah?
Yes.
When? What grant?
Well, you have to speak first.
I'm speaking.
Go ahead then.
Yeah, I don't believe that you are giving people accurate data. I think you're picking the most nebulous, dissembling nonsense and telling people that so that you're not getting people mad at you. I know you want to be reelected. I know you're a theater kid. I know you don't like people being mad at you. But, I mean, you are a theater kid. That's fine. It is. Bro, I was going through the old journal. You're totally in all kinds of community theater. That's being a theater kid, all right? So, yeah, I mean, and I get it. You're Mr. Stevens' point. You want to be liked, but this is something that we can look at the data, we can look at the facts, we can look at reason, and I don't see why you're being so wishy-washy. You should back council. I'm sick of you throwing them under the bus. It's poor leadership, and you and Brandy gin up a bunch of crap together. It's like Fox News. It's bullshit.
Thank you.
So what grants have you written?
I'm sorry, we don't allow interchanges during the public
You said you
comment
could
period.
respond.
I will respond.
All right,
We're
respond.
done.
I'm done.
Okay, thank you. Next up, we have Vincent.
That'd be no
Lorenzi.
grants then.
Carrie, feel free to see me after the meeting. I'll be happy to explain the dates that the director and I met with the DOT. I'm not sure where you get theater kid, because I played FDR in Annie 2 years ago. That's it. Not a theater kid. Regardless, I would be proud to be a theater kid. Mr. Moresi, you have 15 and 13, right?
Mr. Mayor, excuse me, isn't she not supposed to state her name and address?
Oh, I'm sorry, I can do that for you. It's Carrie Ryan, and it looks like 1003 Fifth Avenue, is that correct?
Sure.
Thank you.
Is that the, okay, and Stevens Point. We don't know if that's true or not. 13 and 15, Vinny, right? Where's Vinny? I saw him back there. Okay. 15. Normally we have these in numeric order. 15, 15, 15, 15, 15. 8 and 16, Mary McComb.
I wanted to speak on item.
We need you up here.
I want to speak
We
on item
need you up here.
15, but
Oh, you had 16.
on the agenda.
You had
That's
s- you-
C-51.
This is 15.
Oh, that's 816 for the date. B51 proposal, so it is item 15. My apologies, I was looking at the date. I thought it was 8 and 16 you want to speak on. So 15, city IT. Fred, what do you want to speak on? Well, I don't know, it says city IT. What does that mean? We don't have an agenda item
Something
for.
that came up, I haven't heard.
I think this is probably it, since we don't have an agenda item. These are all 15. There's
There's something I've been wondering about. It was in the newspaper, came up, I haven't heard nothing on it. This deal in regard to David Shore messing around at the polling place. It's against the law, he didn't follow that. I haven't heard nothing, I'm wondering what's happening.
I can offer an update
Thank you, Fred.
in response.
We
normally
normally don't interact, but if Fred is done, I'll allow you to respond.
Yeah, a complaint was made to the Wisconsin Election Commission, and it was dismissed as not having grounds.
I disagree with that because.
Fred?
Well, that's fine, but
We're not going to interact here. If you don't like the answer, you can contact Alderperson Shore or
I'm not
Clerk
gonna.
Yenter outside of the meeting. We good?
I talked to people at the polling place, they were zero for respect and they didn't get it.
Understood. Thank you. Keith Kudrowski.
Good evening, everybody. Boy, usually I'm the fun one, but it's been off to an interesting start. Thank you, everybody, for voting for this referendum. I'm sorry, not thanking you because you're the reason. You just didn't listen. We'll talk more about when we get to there. And just one more thing, I want to assure Attorney Beveridge that it is legal by Wisconsin open meetings laws to have this open comment section, because he is concerned that we shouldn't be allowed to talk, which would make no sense in open meetings. But that's all. We'll see you in 14 items.
Thank you, Keith. Just for the record, I don't think the city attorney says we couldn't do it.
He said he didn't
Generally,
know.
we don't have to do it.
He took me 30 seconds to find that answer, and he
He's our attorney.
Bob Larson.
Good evening, Bob Larson, 3283 Lindbergh Avenue, Stevens Point. I brought this up a couple months ago, Mayor, about running a test example from Pat Street to 4th Avenue, using the inside lanes as turn lanes and the outside lanes as the driving lanes. The City Council and the past mayor made a $50 million mistake by taking ownership of Business 51. Let's not make another $50 million mistake. Why can't we do a test? You got the paint machine, let's use it. Got barrels, let's use it. Let's do a 13-week test on this thing. And then we'll know once and for all, is it workable or is it not workable? When I was in business years ago, if we weren't sure of an item, we'd put it on the test market. And this would be a good one to test. It could save us $50 million. So once it's done, I don't think we want to spend another $50 million and tearing it up. So I'd appreciate looking at it again to run a test on that. Thank you.
Thank you. I think Director Badun is in the other room. Director, you and I had talked about this before. Could you maybe come in and have Bob maybe step outside? You could explain to him what you had told me regarding testing the road with striping or barrels. Next up, Kevin Flatoff.
Kevin Flatoff, Southside Business Association, Gold Key Motors, Stevens Point, Wisconsin. Thank you, Mayor. For people that were maybe not paying close attention to what recently went on with the referendum, I just want to kind of break it down to simplify it for everybody. As business owners on the Business 51 corridor, if we do nothing at all, it becomes a two-lane road diet. That was made pretty clear and evident by our city council and Scott Badun and Aecom. The only way for us to address it in a binding manner through a referendum was to create an ordinance in the city of Stevens Point requiring road projects over $1 million to go to a binding referendum. If we were to address Business 51 by itself, it would be an advisory referendum and nothing more. What an advisory referendum is, everybody, it takes a vote of the people and it simply advises the city council on which direction they could head. So what that means, if 80% of the people say we do not want a two-lane road diet, the city council can very easily say, we're gonna stick with the two-lane road diet, that's the direction we want to head. That would have been a total waste of our time. So people understand, please, that we hired legal counsel that is very good at municipal law. They wrote up this referendum for a reason. And what we have now is at least until August of 2024, the city council cannot move forward on Business 51 without taking it to a binding referendum. That gives us some protection. Without it, we have none. Why did we do it now instead of waiting if they're not going to set a shovel in the ground until maybe 2024? Well, we are good through August of 2024. Okay? So let's hope we can work together. City council, citizens of Stevens Point, and businesses. It's important to everybody. We need to make a road that works. So I hope everybody understands the purpose of the referendum and why we did it and the way we did it. It was the only way to protect us from getting stuck with the two-lane road that many across Portage County, to be frank, this is bigger than a city issue because I'm out there and I hear it all day long. Portage County doesn't want this road. They want a four-lane road. They want safe, efficient travel. Thank you for your time, Mayor.
Thank you. Next up, Keith Bisek?
Bizak.
Bizak.
Yeah.
Keith, you're up.
Thanks. No way.
Keith Bizak, 301 4th Avenue, Stevens Point. I wanted to address the issue of community education, specifically on the referendum, or using the referendum as an example. I think, it's pretty clear that the referendum was confusing to a lot of people. Even now, after it's been voted on, we're still getting explanations from, non-experts on what the referendum actually does. And I put the lack of community education on you. The fact that we knew nothing about, that the city presented nothing in terms of actually explaining the complexities of the referendum is shameful. That you would let a referendum like this happen is fine, but without stepping forward to allow the community the chance to learn about it, to learn about the serious consequences of such a thing is potentially disastrous. I watched your transportation video with Scott Badoon, happened on, I think, July 21st. Me and 40 other people have seen that. All right, 40. I couldn't find any other resources that explain the referendum. And in that video, you actually don't even mention the referendum. Once again, leaving us, the people of the city, to just kind of read a yard sign and get an idea of what the referendum is supposed to be. I understand that it's important for citizens to educate themselves, but on a referendum like this that was, complexly written, very confusing, that should have been the exact moment for the city to step forward and to educate the public. As it got closer and closer, you did a transportation video, but you could see the signs in people's yards. They were very confusing on both sides, and it got more and more confusing. That is a sign that the people do not know what is going on. It's not that the community is divided. It's that the community is lacking information, and you should lead by educating people. If you care about the people that you say you represent, you should educate them, arm them with information, rather than trying to play both sides, taking a step back, as you're suggesting, taking a breath. We need to step forward. We need to encounter all the passion that's been put forward for this referendum, rather than take a back seat on it, which is what the city did and left us floundering until the election actually happened. And you can clearly see that it's very confusing, because it's clearly divided.
Thank you. Keith, just as a suggestion, because we're always looking for ways to improve,
Great.
what would have been appropriate? What would have
I think you could have had, many public forums.
Okay.
I think you could have had signs, even, signage, whether it's at the, you don't do signs?
Well, so here's the thing, and I'm going to
Just a suggestion.
step on the side here. We did interviews. We had a website. We had the video, which I didn't even see how many people saw it. But those were the ways that we tried. The city doesn't get to take a stance on whether you should vote for or against something.
You don't have to.
But it's very hard to put something on a sign that would cover all the complexities of the referendum question. So I'm looking for, public forums would have been great. We could have probably done some more of those.
There are many ways to present information without taking a side. There are many ways to break information down, legalese, that, means nothing to the public, unless you're really interested in diving in and have a resource to break it down. The city can make signs, can talk to people, can go out in the public, can go to different neighborhoods, talk to people, hold different meetings. There are many endless ways to engage with the public and share information.
Nope, I appreciate the suggestions. You're right. That is absolutely on me.
Okay.
If we fell short, and that's on me.
I know we can always call, and that seems to be
Lots
the
of people
suggestion.
did.
But there's a lot of people that don't call, or even don't even know what to ask. There are plenty of people who didn't even vote on the referendum. They voted, but they didn't either turn it over, because ballots are already confusing, or they did turn it over and read it and they realized, I don't know what I'm voting for. And so they just didn't vote. And so that's why we see a 31, if that was the final vote, 31 vote difference. There's still like 600 some people that potentially didn't even vote. And then, the thousands of people that didn't even come to the polls, which, that's their choice, but.
That's another problem unto itself, but you are absolutely right. We
gotta educate the public.
There's always ways to improve any plan. Nothing should be set in stone. So I
That's
like.
not what I'm saying. I'm not saying something.
You wanted me to improve communication. I agree with you.
Yeah, nothing.
I'm gonna
I'm
do
not
my
talking
best
about setting anything
to improve
in stone.
communication.
Nothing was set in stone. No effort was made. Nothing was even etched in stone. The stone wasn't even there. There was nothing for us to engage with. We were left alone to duke it out amongst ourselves. To let the battles between people, to all the politics come out. We were left alone with it, and now we have to deal with it. These like $1 million decisions are now on the onus of the people. And we're just gonna like throw up our hands and say, well, it shouldn't have come to this. But how did it come to this? And we knew for months what this referendum question was about. And nothing happened. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Morrow.
Yes, I wanted to talk about this item. Item specifically item 616. I like it at the front of the meeting. That's what I wanted to really say. I think if we have it at the end, it's going to cause a lot of problems. And one of the things I've said before, one of the biggest problems that a lot of folks feel is that we don't listen. And if we put this at the end of our meeting, which tonight will probably go pretty long, a lot of folks are going to be more upset. A lot of feelings are going to be frayed. And as long as I've been on city council for about the past 10 years, we've always had it at the very front. And I think that's where it should really stay.
Thank you. I couldn't agree more.
Thank you.
And lastly, Brock Maddox.
We got 3 minutes here. My name is Brock Maddox, 5421 Monroe Avenue, Plover, Wisconsin. I'm the president of the Freedom Fighters of Central Wisconsin. Today, I come to talk to you as a citizen and as an American. And I encourage everybody to listen to what I got to say here. I started working out in Stevens Point here. Everybody knows, done a lot of efforts here in Stevens Point, went throughout the state. Ended up getting hired by Michael Flynn, working with the Trump administration. And I've been doing that for about 6 months. It wasn't a favorable thing to do. I took a lot of heat for it. Somebody had to do it because somebody had to figure out what I know. And I come to you today as an American citizen, and I thank each and every one of you guys for being here today, to fulfilling your duty to our country. So I give each and every one of you a round of applause, because it is not easy in these times that we're living in. Things are very bad, and they're going to get much, much worse. And, you know, you hear people bashing us for election integrity around this nation. I can tell you here in the state of Wisconsin, we have 6 races that were stolen from candidates. And I have some of the most highly trained individuals on a team right now picking it apart, and the numbers do not match up. And I'm hearing this, and I'm on a state director's call, which she is on right now with the Flynn team. And I'm seeing the same things all around the United States, in every state. Every state. And what I'm going to say to you right now, you can believe me or not, but I encourage you to believe me. This is a uniparty. They are working together to steal our elections. We are not free anymore, people. We are not free anymore. And if we do not get off the couch right now as Americans on both sides of this aisle, we will never see freedom again. We will never see freedom again. It's much, much worse than we can all imagine. And I encourage everybody to love each other enough to get off the couch and come together and end this division. They want us fighting, you guys, so they can implement what is the last 2 years that we've been through is child's play compared to what's coming. I encourage each and every one of us to have these conversations, end the division, and come together as Americans. Not as Republicans and Democrats, but as Americans. Freedom-loving Americans. If we can unite on anything, it must be freedom. It must be freedom. If our children cannot experience freedom, I can't see living in a country where my children does not know what freedom is all about.
Thank you, Brock.
So, thank you.
All right, that exhausts, I believe, item number 16. Was there anyone that I missed? Got a little confusing. Did you sign up for one of the agenda items? Okay, and I apologize because the 8/16 date on Mary's threw me off. I was looking at the wrong spot, so let me, 15. What's your name, sir? You see it? There it is. I got it on 15, I'm sorry. So this is a non-agenda item, right?
For item 15.
And we got, so 15, we're not there yet. Item 16 is the non-agenda item. So people get 3 minutes to talk about anything, clearly. All right, so we'll get you on 15, we're good. We have the consent agenda. Does anyone need us to go over the minutes of the special personnel committee meeting? Wait, is that separate? No, it's not. It's in there somewhere, right?
It's right after, it's in the consent agenda, right after personnel.
Good. Personnel and special personnel. Does anyone need us to go over the minutes of the special personnel committee? Yes.
I was not here, so.
We're not here. Okay. Where's Sandy? Sandy, are you here? I can actually go over the minutes if that's okay with you.
Sure.
The first item, call to order at 6:45. The first item was the establishment of salary, hours, and overtime compensation provisions for the battalion chief officer. There was a motion by Shore, second by Christensen to approve that salary, and that was approved by unanimous consent. The second item was ratification or recommendation thereof of the 2022-2024 collective bargaining agreement with the City of Stevens Point firefighters, IAFF Local 484. Motion by Dalton, seconded by Christensen, and again, that motion passed unanimously. There was a question by Dalton regarding residency, and it's just not part of the contract anymore. The state law changed several years ago in regards to residency requirements, so it's no longer part of the contract. Anyone else? Okay, anyone needing to pull anything from the consent agenda? Then I would accept a motion. Alder Dalton?
I'll move approval of the consent agenda.
Thank
I
you.
second.
Seconded by Morrow. Discussion there? Comments from the audience? Hearing none, roll call please.
Christensen,
Yes.
Shore,
Aye.
Keemer,
Aye.
Sarazua, Aye. Johnson,
Aye.
Carlson,
Aye.
Kneebone,
Aye.
Shuda,
Aye.
Dalton,
Aye.
Fischler,
Aye.
Morrow.
Aye.
And that's approved. Item number 5, according to the agenda, I'm just gonna go off the agenda numbers now. Item number 5 on the agenda is a resolution. It's a request from Robert Opiola for a sign variance to install a freestanding sign on the property located at 106th Avenue, consistent with chapter 25.14. This is for the scoreboard. Does anybody need to get some comments, background on this, or is everybody familiar? I have the director on standby just in case.
We're good.
Okay, then I need a motion. Alder Zarzua. Motion to approve, seconded by Shuda. Discussion. Hearing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Morrow.
Aye.
Fischler.
Aye.
Dalton.
Aye.
Shuda.
Aye.
Kneebone.
Aye.
Carlson.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Sarazua.
Aye.
Keemer.
Aye.
Shore.
Aye.
Christensen.
Aye.
And that is approved. As king, I get to keep the directors on standby. Item number 6 is a ordinance for Mark and Janice Klein to annex the property located at 5410 Windy Drive with the parcel identified in your packet from the town of Hull to the city of Stevens Point. Does anybody need background on this? Okay, if you want.
Just real quick, the most important document as it relates to this specific agenda item is on page 41. That is a concurrence letter from the state of Wisconsin. The state doesn't allow the council to take action on any annexations until after the state has sent a concurrence letter. So that did come middle of last week. State has recommended approval. This went before Plan Commission earlier this month. The Kleins are in the back, and so we welcome them with open arms to the city of Stevens Point. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
I will move to approve. It's in my Alder district. And
There you
it was
go.
one little outlier amongst all the other ones, so.
Two extra voters at least.
I absolutely
Seconded by Keemer.
do welcome them into District 7, so.
Perfect. Any other questions? Hearing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Christensen.
Aye.
Shore.
Aye.
Keemer.
Aye.
Sarazua. Aye. Johnson.
Aye.
Carlson.
Aye.
Kneebone?
Aye.
Shuda?
Aye.
Dalton?
Aye.
Fischler?
Aye.
Morrow?
And that is approved. Item number 7 is a resolution authorizing us to apply for a Reconnecting Communities Pilot Discretionary Planning Grant. Sure, Director. I see some confused looks, so go ahead.
So as part of the infrastructure bill that was passed earlier this year, the federal DOT's given state DOT's a fair amount of money to grant out to communities. This specific grant is being written by the community development staff and the public works engineering staff for the purposes of exploring connecting, getting rid of what's commonly known as the concrete moat around downtown. That would be Center Point, First, Second, Water Streets, and finding ways to better connect our communities, our neighborhoods to the north to the downtown area, among other things. So the first step would be to actually put together the planning document, which is going to be the full environmental. We're going to look at pretty much every square inch of those specific roadways. And then once that's done, that allows us to apply for a larger grant to actually do the physical work in addressing the needs of that planning document itself. So I'm glad we have a full house. This is one of the early starts of how we put together grant documents and apply for grant funding for at the federal level. So more than happy to answer any questions the council may have.
Perfect. Alder Short. Oh, I'm sorry.
I mean, it'd be good for downtown. I move approval.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
That's okay.
I'll give the motion to Shore, second to President Johnson. Any further discussion? Hearing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Morrow?
Aye.
Fischler?
Aye.
Dalton?
Aye.
Shuda?
Aye.
Kneebone?
I just have to say, urban planning is sexy. Aye.
Carlson?
Aye.
Johnson?
Aye.
Zarazua?
Aye.
Keimer?
Aye.
Shore?
Aye.
Christensen?
Aye.
And that is approved. We'll have to get you some experience writing grants.
I have done one or two, actually.
All right, item number 8 is an ordinance amendment relating to parking, chapter 9.05, and the amendments were included in your packet.
I'll move approval of the ordinance amendments.
Thank you, seconded by Shuda. Alder Morrow.
Oh, sorry, I didn't know that was a second, sorry.
We got a motion and a second. Are there any questions? Seems like this is happening monthly, but we keep finding new things that need to be
In parking.
updated. Right, and it's all parking related. Very complicated. All right, clerk, please call the roll.
Christensen?
Aye.
Shore?
Aye.
Keimer?
Aye.
Zarazua?
Aye.
Johnson?
Aye.
Carlson?
Aye.
Kneebone?
Aye.
Shuda?
Aye.
Dalton?
Aye.
Fischler?
Aye.
Morrow?
Aye. And that is approved. Item number 9 is to approve the sidewalk assessments for 2021. Streets Improvement Project 21-01. Mr. Tesh, you wanted to speak?
Craig Tesh, 11 on Frontenac, Stevens Point. The reason that I wanted to talk about this is because, well, I really didn't know from looking at this exactly what the agenda was on it. But I'll bring up the same thing that I had before, and that was about where I was charged an assessment for the new sidewalk on the side of my property. I did call, when I saw this on the agenda, I called down to the Board of Public Works Department, and was referred to August of 2021. I really couldn't garner too much out of that, but I'm going to bring this up again. When I had this done, it was supposed to be for something for school, access to school, and of course, it didn't really turn out to be that way for us because for our block, our street there, nobody walks on it. Over $2,200 that we had to pay. There was 9 other people that were involved at that same time, and of course, after we had ours done, I think there was another one that was done also. And now, as I understand it, from what she told me, this was done back in August of last year, that now that it's all going to be taken care of by the city whenever there's a future project like this. My thinking is that as long as that's being done, that maybe the people that have had to pay in the past for this before you've made that change, to me, I think that they should be reimbursed. And that doesn't mean that you send it back to them. Maybe we had to pay over so many years. Maybe it can be reimbursed with us so many years. But I do think that those people that had to pay that should now be reimbursed.
Thank you. Okay, we need a motion. Alder Shore.
I'll make a motion that we actually do not send out assessments to the property owners.
Okay, Director Badun, I'm gonna need you in here.
Do we need to make an amendment?
We have a second, I mean, it needs a second.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure I'm gonna need him anyway. Is there a second to that?
I'll second.
Thank you. Now I gotta wait for Director Badun. There are some significant implications. Director, there's a motion on the floor to not assess sidewalks for the 2021 street improvement project. As an expert, can you tell us what complications that might cause?
By not assessing, really the only thing it's going to do is just put, I forget exactly total, about $12,000 back onto the city for those assessments related to that project, Fifth Avenue Forest First.
Okay, so $12,000 is gonna go back onto the budget. I'm not sure, is Carrie here? Carrie, I am unclear if that has to, we have to do a budget amendment then? If this passes, will it require a budget amendment to take it out of 2020? I don't know if it comes out of 2021 or 2022 capital, or if we have to do it out of 2023 capital. It's not
So
coming out of
we're just now assessing for last year?
Yes.
Would be appropriate to send back to finance, maybe?
That sounds like a pretty good idea too, because nobody knew about this, so we weren't able to have question or answers ready. I apologize.
No, it's okay.
That falls on me.
No, so
Carrie-
the 2022, the work just done.
Correct.
Will-
2022, we're
will
done
be-
this
will be
spring.
handled by the city.
Will be assessed. The 2021 were assessed, and then there was a change in ordinance by
Yeah, no,
council,
I know. Yeah.
not to throw anyone under their bus, but we decided that we weren't going to
That's-
assess any further going forward. What this is as prudent, we wanted to see if you were gonna go backwards to do this that 1 year, because it was 4 months, Scott, right? Something like that?
As I recall, I believe I had it in my memo, it was like March, and then when we passed the
So
resolution.
the question is,
August
who's
when we
who's
passed.
gonna be the last set of people?
This is the last.
Right, because the law changed
Right,
after
yeah,
the
yeah,
sidewalks were done, or the ordinance changed. 2022s will definitely follow the new ordinance.
Okay,
But because it was so close, we thought it'd be prudent to get some input from the council on whether or not to go backwards, because it was just a several-month window there.
Right, and if I might add, yeah, and much of the sidewalk hadn't been installed by that August. Some of it had, but none of it, so it was a matter of what were we truly delineating? That was my question. What are we truly using to delineate? Were we going back to when the resolution was done, or were we looking towards to say, from this date forward? You know, then we were gonna be kind of caught in a tight spot if some had been installed and some hadn't. So it was just looking for clarification, which of those two actions the council take. Did the latter one supersede the former, or are we still doing the assessments and then just no longer?
Let me go, because President Johnson actually, I think, has the best idea. Rather than make a decision, because people have concerns, let's not make a decision. Let's send it back to finance, get the questions answered, get the concerns addressed, and then we can talk about it next month.
Do I withdraw a motion, or what?
Technically, no, but I think we'll be okay if we just withdraw the motion and take no action. Or you can take action to refer it back to finance. Either way, it's gonna go back to finance.
Taking no action is good.
Okay? Everyone okay with that?
Can I have a comment?
We're gonna go tomorrow and then Zarazua. But right now, there is no action on the floor.
Okay, please correct me if I'm wrong, Mayor, but due to the budget constraints that we have, that all of the money that we put in for sidewalks has been cut for the next year?
Well, I can tell you that, what'd you say, Scott, 12 grand? 15 grand, something like that? Isn't going to be that impactful this time around because we've got to still cut $3.5 million. So the 15?
It was approximately 12,000.
12,000, give or take. But I'm not sure where it's going to come from. We may have to go backwards and do a budget adjustment. But that's a question for the finance department, and we can cover that next month. I don't know. But yes, if it were to be put on this month's or this year's capital for 2023, we still got to cut $3.5 million, and we've already scraped everything we can out of each department. Found very creative ways to fund things, and we're still short. So it would go into that priority mix.
Which means more than likely, yes.
I would have a hard time recommending we fix sidewalks over getting the fire department safety equipment.
Correct.
Or reconstructing roads, or any of the firewall stuff that we have. I mean, we've got a lot of stuff on there. Alderperson Zarazua.
I just, based on something Director said about that all the sidewalks weren't in at the point of us making that vote, and a lot of this is my constituents, because this was our north side reconstruction. I guess I would want to have an idea of like how much of that project was done, and as council we'd have to say if we were making that decision based on that date or based on projects that had been planned on being completed last year, or how we would move forward with that.
Sure, and we will get those questions answered for you. If any alderperson has questions in regards to this, please contact the Public Works Director and the Comptroller Treasurer's office and get those questions answered so we can have them addressed and ready for next month's Finance Committee. Okay? Alrighty, so we will not take action, but we will refer it back to Finance Committee so we can have it considered next month. Mr. Tesh, I apologize, I don't remember when your sidewalks were done, but you may have to come back next month for consideration on that. Item number 10 is to award Fire Station 1 and Police Department Parking Lot Project 22-11 to Stuczynski Trucking and Excavating for an amount not to exceed $567,749.25. Alder Shore, we'll give it to President Johnson, then Alder Shore. Comments?
Well, I was thinking that Alder Kiemer and I should share, this one, given the locations, but never mind.
That's quite all right. And we do fully expect it to come in less than that. We worked within city staff to make some modifications that should save us a little bit of money.
Anybody wanting to know what we're talking about, just step outside.
Yeah, step outside. Be careful. Watch your step because there are some pretty nasty holes in that parking lot. All right. Any other comments? Hearing and seeing none. Clerk, please call the roll.
Christensen.
Aye.
Shore.
Aye.
Kiemer.
Aye.
Zarazua.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Carlson.
Aye.
Kneebone.
Aye.
Shuda.
Aye.
Dalton.
Aye.
Fischler.
Aye.
Oro.
Aye.
And that is approved. Item number 11 is the approval of the bid for the heating, ventilation, and air conditioning upgrades at Fire Station 1. Is everybody familiar, or do we need the chief to come up here and tell you what circumstances his team has been living in?
No.
I'll move approval.
Motion by Fischler,
I'll second.
seconded by Nebo.
I've been in there. They need this.
Discussion.
I guess I just had a clarifying question.
Sure.
If this would be a capital expense for 2023 or where the funding would come?
No, it's actually coming back. We are pulling it out of some of the capital from 2022 that was carried over, and then we have to add some more that I believe they're taking out of borrowing. They're borrowing. Yeah. So it won't be 2023 capital. Told you guys it cuts $3.5 million, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so we have taken some money from the 2022 capital, and we're doing some additional borrowing to cover these costs.
Thanks.
All right, if you're in favor, vote yes. If you are opposed, vote no, and the clerk can call the roll.
Morrow.
Aye.
Fischler.
Aye.
Dalton.
Aye.
Shuda.
Aye.
Kneebone.
Aye.
Carlson.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Zarazua.
Aye.
Kiemer.
Aye.
Shore.
Aye.
Christensen.
Aye.
And that is approved. Item number 12 is ratification of the 2022-2024 collective bargaining agreement with the Stevens Point Firefighters, IAFF Local 484, That was approved by the Police and Fire Commission earlier, late last week. Yeah,
Yeah,
late
Wednesday.
late last week, forgot what day it was.
And by personnel.
And by personnel earlier this evening. We'll give the motion to Keemer, second to Christensen. How's that?
Fine.
Discussion. Hearing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Christensen.
Aye.
Shore.
Aye.
Keimer.
Aye.
Zarazua. Johnson.
Aye.
Carlson.
Aye.
Kneebone.
Aye.
Shuda.
Aye.
Dalton.
Aye.
Fischler.
Aye.
Morrow.
Aye.
And that is approved. Item number 13 is a resolution. That's an advisory referendum for the adult use of marijuana. As an adult, Mr. Moresi, you are up.
As an adult.
Thank you, Council. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to speak on behalf of this resolution going to vote for the entire citizenry of Stevens Point. The Mr. Mayor explained that we did have some referendums, advisory referendums that came through in 2018, but that was for certain counties and cities. We have not had a statewide referendum quite yet.
Statewide.
No, it was not. It was for certain counties and cities. I was involved with all of those referendums. So what I'm asking the council to do is let the people of Stevens Point decide whether or not we should be able to consume, sell, and regulate the consumption of marijuana. Main reason I'd like to see that being done is because it's a huge economic boon for the state. And we can actually capitalize on the taxes that are put on these, on marijuana, whether it's edible, smokable, vapable, whatever you want, that can pay for roads and bridges. So if we want to talk about how we're going to pay for all these projects in the future with the new referendum on our hands, we will be able to do that with the amount of money will be generated from this. We can also pay for school upgrades and other social programs. Colorado, in the first year of legalization, I believe they had about $180 million in taxes that they gained from marijuana tax, basically. That paid for roads, bridges, schools, many other social programs, and also helped with the opioid addiction, treatment of the opioid addiction. It'll spur entrepreneurship in our community. It'll also be a huge agricultural, also spur agricultural entrepreneurship because we are an agricultural county. We have $1 billion a year industry currently in Portage County. It's a huge cash crop. It has low to no inputs, which could help us in central Wisconsin actually solve some of the nitrate pollution problems that we have in our community. I've talked to law enforcement. They honestly have better things to do than be busting college kids with a nickel bag of weed. We also have our former district attorney and the current consensus in that office is that they're no longer even prosecuting. They don't have the time, the resources, the money to prosecute small offenses of marijuana possession. So my request is that council allow this to go to Stevens Point residents to vote on for a referendum just to legalize, just advisory. They'll send it to the state. They'll send it to the Attorney General. They'll send it to counties and say, hey, look what Stevens Point did. Currently, Rock County, La Crosse County, I believe Eau Claire County, I'm not positive on that. I know there's cities doing it. Madison, Dane County, all sorts of other municipalities are pushing this forward. So I would appreciate if the alders would do the same, just to give the people a vote. It's a non-binding referendum, so there's no expense to us other than the small amount for putting it on the ballot, which is about $1,000.
Well, we already have 4 referendum questions that'll probably be on there, so it's probably gonna be even a little less.
Yeah.
Thank you, Vinnie.
If anybody has questions of me, please feel free to ask. We did pass 83% for medical marijuana back in 2018, so. which I
16
authored.
counties.
16 counties, yeah, and I authored that one, so, thank you.
Thank you. Alderpersons, what are your wishes? President Johnson.
Motion to approve going to referendum on this advisory referendum on marijuana.
Thank you.
I'll
Thank
second.
you. Seconded by Debo. Discussion there.
Isn't this a bit redundant from years past?
the argument could be made, but I can tell you that it's not going to be like without cause. 2018 was 4 years ago. It's really not gonna cost that much more. I will allow Mr. Moresi to respond to the alderperson's questions, because you are much more versed in this than I am.
Thank you, Alder Schuta. It's a good question. Redundancy, I would say no. In 2018, we actually passed a medical marijuana referendum here in Portage County. That was countywide, and that was for medical use, right? So 83%. I doubt we'll see 83% for recreational use. We might, though. I don't know. People are ready. People are ready to take charge of their own life. So I don't think it's redundant. We've only had 2 referendums like this would be the second referendum in our county, and this one's only for the city because the County Board of Supervisors isn't quite ready to take that leap. But I believe that the alders are. So thank you.
And I agree. At the risk of sounding wishy-washy, why not check it out? Some people want it, some people don't. Get the facts. Anyone else? Okay, if you're in favor, vote yes. If you're opposed, vote no, and the clerk will call the roll.
Morrow.
Aye.
Fischler.
Aye.
Dalton.
Aye.
Schuta.
Aye.
Kneebone.
Aye.
Carlson.
Aye. Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Zerazua.
Aye.
Keimer.
Aye.
Shore.
Aye.
Christensen.
Aye.
Okay, and that is approved. We are gonna need someone to work with the city attorney to get the wording. We have to have that wording, as I mentioned earlier, by August 30th. And council already approved that, so we don't need to have that on a special meeting, but we will need the wording submitted to the state by August 30th. So Vinnie, contact the city attorney when you have time. You and Ben are probably the biggest advocates, so.
Yeah, and Ben would be here tonight, but
Appreciate everything you're doing.
thank you.
All right, item number 14 is to award the bid for asbestos abatement and demolition to Edgewater Manor at 1450 Water Street. Does anybody need a recap on that one? Okay,
I'm not making a motion. I just wish to express that I will be abstaining because I have a professional connection to this. The materials will be coming to my landfill.
understood. Thank you. Motion?
Motion so moved.
Thank you.
Alder Keimer, I'll second.
Seconded by Keeber. All right, discussion.
We've talked about this a lot.
Yep, and we got a pretty favorable bid considering all of the other bids, so
Very good.
that should work out well. The nicest thing about it, and I've said this before, I'm just gonna take a second, anything that was salvageable, including copper wiring, was taken out and repurposed from that building. And then not only our emergency services, but emergency services personnel from other communities came and used that facility as a training tool. Rarely do you get to provide a 5-story building with real-life type simulations for fire rescue or breaching doors to go rescue someone. So it was great. There was a lot of reuse of that building, even at the end of its life. Who's ringing?
I had one other thing, like, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but the funding for this is coming out of the Edge Water
Yes.
Fund, not from taxpayer dollars.
This is not taxpayer money paying for this.
Thank you.
Correct. All right, if you're in favor, vote yes. If you're opposed, vote no.
Christensen.
Aye.
Shore.
Aye.
Keimer.
Aye.
Zerazua.
Aye.
Johnson abstained. Carlson.
Aye.
Kneebone.
Aye.
Schuta.
Aye.
Dalton. Aye. Fischler.
Aye.
Morrow.
Aye.
And that is approved. Now for our main event. Item number 15, funding for Aecom to evaluate the engineering and cost of a Business 51 design incorporating a 4-lane section from North Point Drive to 4th Avenue, a signalized intersection at 4th Avenue and Division Street, a 3-lane twiddle cross-section from approximately 4th Avenue to Patch Street, and the DOT minimum standard 4-lane cross-section from approximately Patch to south within the city limit. I put this on there as an attempt to give us a starting point to talk about other options that we might have that we have not yet fully explored. If you don't like 434, change it. If you don't like the dimensions or the boundaries, change it. If you don't like I don't know, whatever it is, change it. But let's start somewhere to get back to the table. We have a bunch of people ready to speak, so we're gonna go there first. And Vinny, I'll call you back up. Where'd you go? Oh, there you are. Yep, I got you at 13 and 15.
Want me to start right away on that one?
I'm just going through the list again. If you want to back clean up, I can certainly move you.
Thank you. This is a tough subject for us as a community. And I feel like we've done a lot of work preparing for maybe a not so popular plan. However, we've been given ample amount of time, 4 to 5 years in the planning process, spent millions of dollars. And I would just hope that the council is willing to give consideration to the plan as presented with some modifications as needed. I'm not necessarily in favor entirely of what Mayor Wiesa is proposing, but I don't think it's without merit that we generate some consensus-forming discussion about this topic. I think the key thing in this will be just turning down the level of condescension in the room when we're talking about it. Please, Mr. Mayor, I would appreciate that, and I think everybody else would, and your council would appreciate that as well. However, we did spend a lot of time, energy, and money trying to plan this project. Pre-pandemic, I was at all of those meetings, and we had every opportunity to find it, on the website through public notice and whatnot. So I think we need to really consider the plan as presented with some tweaks. However, I don't know how that process works and who has the ability or how council can deliberate on that to make those tweaks. I don't know if that's a unilateral decision. It kind of seems that way right now, but I'm not sure that council agrees with your plan, Mayor Mike. So I hope that we can all kind of try to figure that out. I'm sorry that wasn't as definitive, and I didn't take
Kind of wishy-washy.
It was a little bit wishy-washy. But no, I do want you to take into consideration the plan as presented. I think that's the most important thing. And as Mr. Bisak had discussed, making sure we get all those details and facts out there, even post-mortem, what this referendum means, right?
I like the phrase.
How it's going to affect us as a community, because I'm pretty sure that half the people in this room don't understand the fact that we are going to be waiting for road projects to get done now. So if we can at least do the postmortem on that and actually get those numbers out there, show us what this plan is, the actual proposed plan as we have it positioned right now is going to cost, that would be great. Show us the plan that you're presenting, and then everything in between, so we have like a plug-and-play type of thing, so we can just shift things around and get some real numbers going on, and real data, not the data, not Facebook data. None of you want that crap anymore. Come on, we want real data. We don't want sparring sides. We want the city to actually show us the position that is best for our community, not what's happening here now. So, thank you.
Thank you. I feel the need to clarify this again. This is a proposal only because it's a starting point. It's not asking us to scrap anything that we've done already. It's asking us to further consider potential options that, again, may not have been fully explored. This is a starting point. If you don't like 434, change it to something else. But come back to the table. That was the whole point of me putting this on here. Mr. Tesh, I have you on 15. Thought it was 16, but now it's 15.
Craig Tesh, again, 1100 Frontenac, haven't moved. But I do have a property at 3133 Church Street. And, in looking over number 9, I went back to the video and was watching the August of 2021 Board of Public Works meeting. And I didn't get an answer for that, but what I did notice is that the lady from Aecom did an extensive presentation on this project. What surprised me is there was only 2 people sitting back here in the audience, 2 people. And that tells me, as important as it is, that tells me that somehow the word didn't get out to these folks. I want to thank, I don't know where the camera is, but I want to thank everybody that voted yes for this, only because we can get back here. This is a chance to start all over again with all these folks here. You and all these folks here have a chance to start again, to meet, set up all these meetings and hash through everything. And as this gentleman here said, and I agree, put the cost on there, put everything on there, but by the same token, consider the 434, because it's very obvious that I think it's going to be hurting those people in business that are above, and that you're going to put 3-lane in. I think, if you would have talked to the folks in the beginning, I think it wouldn't have got to this. But now we have a chance to start again. I'm hoping that I'll see some of that.
Thank you.
And especially, oh yes, and I want to say this, is, what's happening is by the time it gets here to the council, you're voting on the finale, but these folks should have gotten a chance to been informed to go to that Board of Public Works meeting and ask the questions there before we even got to this point. That's about it.
I agree. It just brought up another idea. Maybe we don't do a plan. Maybe we just have Aecom come in and do a presentation on what options there might be out there. That could save us some work too. Andy, you're up.
My name's Andy Sahusky, 2900 Frontenac Avenue, Stevens Point. I was going to read this, but I'm not going to do that. Mr. Mayor, I'm glad you're bringing this hopefully back to the table so we can kind of discuss this and go through some other options. I know everyone's saying that, it's been out there for a while. This has all been discussed, but just seeing what it can do to these businesses on both the north end and south end, going to a road diet could just be detrimental. And as someone that lives on the south side, just thinking of the added traffic that could happen on the residential roads, which could happen, because as humans, we're going to take the path of least resistance from getting point A to point B. And I've seen it when there was 1 lane each way during the construction just recently. Just more traffic on Michigan Avenue, more traffic on Minnesota Avenue. And those are residential areas. So just the fact that we can bring this back to the table, hopefully find more options. Not saying there's a right one, but if we can just talk and work through it, I'd be happy with that. So I hope that you all do this and we can get back to the table and discuss some options. So thank you.
Thank you. We still have quite a few people wishing to speak. It's been great so far. I hope everyone's cognizant of allowing time for everyone else. Trevor, do you want to get on?
Can you hear me?
We can.
Okay, thanks, Mayor. So Trevor Rourke, 601 Washington Avenue. I guess I don't understand the statements that have been made online as on the city website, as well as the proposal by you, Mr. Mayor. Are you asking as well for funding or Aecom to tell us what it would cost to revamp the current design work for north and south segments, as well as 4th Avenue intersection? And then shouldn't this also be in the proposal? So in other words, how much money would be wasted by not using the current designs, and then how much by redoing them? So it's kind of compounded if that were to happen, right?
Yeah. That's not what
further, the south segment with the current 4-to-3 conversion design already won a $3.5 million grant with the state, which you mentioned on the city website too. And super excited about that. Thanks to city staff for making that happen and saving us those tax dollars. But the referendum response statement you made, Mr. Mayor, mentioned possibly giving us money back if required to the state with a different design if that were to happen. but I would say this is fiscally irresponsible for a few reasons. One is returning that money, that then means we have to pick up that tab as taxpayers. Second reason would be returning that grant money means that the city is less likely to win a grant from the state in the future for something like this or even a future other road project. And then the third reason, for the same reason as number two, we're less likely to get a grant from the feds, which folks have been paying attention for the last, 4 or 5 months. The bipartisan infrastructure law has been throwing money at states like crazy. And basically, the language from the Federal Highway Administration is saying you need to prioritize pedestrians. You need to prioritize bicyclists, public transit. Safety is key. So to reconsider just seems really irresponsible. I think this proposal is the wrong direction to turn, and I hope City Council either votes it down or decides to postpone. Thank you.
Thank you. Keith Kudrowski.
Keith Kudrowski, 1536 Water Street. Thank you. I think Jeremy brought this up a long time ago, and I don't see what the problem is. All the surveys I've seen, the people wanted 4 lanes. We agree that the middle doesn't work for 3 lanes. There's room on the south end and the north. And the north end is actually built 4 lanes with a big median strip. I don't see why that's getting destroyed and made into a 3-lane road when it's already set up for 4. It's got turn lanes, it's got it all, and we're gonna change that. You're gonna, why are we doing that on that end? That sounds like a gross waste of money, moving all this dirt to build a beautiful median strip which does nothing for the road. So in the south end, I know a lot of these people, they're begging, this is their livelihood. They do rely on drive-by traffic. I'm not going to Hardee's if I'm not on that road. I'm not going to Arby's. I'm not going to a ton of these places unless I'm on the road. They need traffic. The middle, you can do what you need, I guess. I don't know, actually a friend sent me some pictures from Wausau. They have a 4-lane road from Schofield to downtown. When I was shocked, it's all on the road. They got the little bike painted on there, and I take that route seldom. How did they manage to get that in? They have a sidewalk, no boulevard, 4 lanes. I don't know. I think you gotta look at other options. I think this was pushed by some people to Aecom, which I still don't get how they were just given the award. How was that not bidded out in itself? How did you just pick one person? Who were they in the ear of that they got chosen? There are other designers out there. It's not a one. So just a couple things. I think you need to reconsider it. Vote yes.
Thank you. Mary McComb.
Mary McComb, 2100 Elk Street in Stevens Point. I'm really appreciating the checks and balances built into our democracy now, especially because Common Council needs to check this proposal that the mayor has presented tonight. First, what was it about the referendum that spurred the mayor to his 3 a.m. proposal that's on tonight's agenda? The referendum didn't concern Business 51, or did it? Literally, it didn't. But its backers confused the hell out of people with their claims that it did, even though it didn't. It was a mess, and it still is a mess. And the mess probably accounted for the very small 30 vote, how many margin of victory for the people who voted yes. But the mayor decided early in the morning that this tiny victory was about Business 51, and thus we have this proposal today as a starting point, and I appreciate that. But we have a starting point already. I've got a couple comments about the mayor's proposal. First is, why would we want to keep the north section 4 lanes? It is probably our most energetic, vibrant, developing, high-density residential neighborhood, and it's truly mixed use. We even have a pedestrian pass-through that the city designed. And now we're going to make all those pedestrians still cross 4 traffic lanes even after the redevelopment, and we're going to lose the roundabout that would make things safer and more convenient, both for drivers and for pedestrians. And to save property acquisition expenditures, the mayor proposes we should narrow the lanes from the DOT recommendations to the DOT's minimum width. This clearly is not as safe compared to the current design. I'm wondering, why would the mayor propose spending more money to ask Aecom to develop more plans to develop a less safe, less friendly, outdated corridor that people are going to have to deal with for decades, long after I'm gone? Why is the mayor holding the city hostage to a small group of property owners who have presented only a fear-based rationale for their arguments?
Please,
Surely,
let her speak.
surely the mayor, with his years of experience in government, knows how to recognize and respect expertise and professionalism.
Thank you, Mary.
Or maybe not. I've got one more sentence.
All right.
Maybe fear is behind his decision to favor the people who want 4 lanes. I encourage the council to reject this proposal. Stevens Pointers deserve the best for Business 51, and we already have a proposal. Let's work from that.
Thank you, Mary. Neil Wasinski.
So Neil Wasinski, 396 Old Wasser Road, Stevens Point, Wisconsin. Now, I just want to be honest here. I don't think anybody wanted this to go to a referendum, to divide the community up really bad. The only reason that this even went to a referendum is because the people we're hearing, like, their voices were not being heard. And even after that, I'm not trying to be offensive here when I say this, I think people are still feeling that way because we have 4 lanes on part of it, 4 lanes on the bottom, and we're still talking about 3 lanes in the middle. So I guess what I'm proposing is in Grand Avenue in Wausau, if you look at it, they have a 4-lane road, right? And then they have these advisory bike lane things here, and you yield to the bikers. So we have to reach a general consensus that works for everybody. This plan would only, I don't know, let's be honest, maybe 1.5 feet on each side. Why don't we build this like Grand Avenue in Wausau? Expand it out a little bit, keep it 4 lanes. And that way everybody's being heard. We have a 4-lane in the middle, we have 4 lane on the bottom, we have 4 lane on the top, and there still is some pedestrian improvement. And I guess I'm gonna give these pictures to you guys, just the business of Grand Avenue.
You need those back?
No, you can keep those are yours to
Give
keep.
those to the clerk after everybody's had
Just,
a look
I
at
don't know,
it.
just consider it, that's all I'm asking, and yeah, just consider everybody's voices and opinions on this one, because we can't keep, being divisive here with this stuff, because it's not helpful to anybody. So that's it, have a nice evening.
Thank you. Keith, you're up again.
Keith Bezak, 301 4th Avenue. I would also encourage the council to reject this this agenda item here and work with the current road proposal that's been designed already. I'm speaking a little bit more on behalf of, as a small business owner. My business and my wife's business, Caravan Wine Shop, is in downtown on the square. And yet I fear that doing the 434 would prohibit people from being able to access downtown. And I want to explain that just a little bit. I think Mary already mentioned the divide that is division is you know, it's I used to live on McCulloch. It's treacherous to cross. We all have heard about this already. But if we were to make, you know, this a more friendly street to cross, people would, of all kinds, in cars, in bikes, on foot, they would be more inclined to explore different parts of our community. We wouldn't be hanging out on one side and not crossing because we don't have a car or because it's just dangerous. Building a vibrant business district where there's also residents, there's plenty of walkers around here that walk everywhere. Making that an attractive place to people only brings in dollars into the community. If this is all about people's money in their pocket, then yeah, it's about, you know, making the city attractive and having a sense of vision for the city, not just protecting what people know. If people are afraid of a roundabout, I mean, you're going to be stuck in the past. You're going to be stuck in, you know, dry up. I mean, circles are nature's way of saying hello. Right? I mean, so there's a friendliness to making the street more accessible. People will continue to drive through. We're not just a city for people to pass through and get to the other side. We're a city for people to drive through, take the time to see what's around them, pull over, turn off, park their bike at a really cool bike rack, and frequent the businesses. Shop, spend their money, stay at a hotel, go downtown. So as a downtown business owner, I would encourage you to work with the current plan that you have available, reject this 434 thing, and make the city friendlier to all types of people who live in Stevens Point and who live out of Stevens Point. It makes Stevens Point an attractive place to the greater world. And on that note, there are way bigger cities than us that have much smaller roads, more dense traffic, that have become more accessible to bikes and pedestrians. And I tell you, man, their businesses are thriving.
Thank you, Keith. And you have the ultimate, right? You have the ultimate road diet. You're on a one-lane road and on sort of a roundabout, the businesses.
In a roundabout.
Yeah. One-lane roundabout, one way.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Jane Wasinski?
My question was answered.
Okay, we'll move along. Bob Larson.
Bob Larson, 3283 Lindbergh Avenue, Stevens Point. You mentioned starting point. Business 51 doesn't just impact Stevens Point residents. It impacts all the people living in Portage County. Plover, Town Hall, Whiting. I would ask the mayor and the city council to be proactive, get together with John Pavelski, county board supervisors, and discuss Business 51. And by that I mean, see if they want to kick in some money, because they are not real happy with this program either. And if you could sit down and maybe share the costs on this, and then take a binding referendum, not an advisory, a binding referendum to the people of Portage County. Do you want 4 lanes or 2? And that's all you have to do. But you need cooperation from Portage County, but from talking to people, they're not exactly excited about this current proposal, this diet road. So I would say to the city council, get the mayor authorization to get together with Pavelski and the county board supervisors and talk about this thing, because this thing impacts everyone in Portage County, not just the Stevens Point residents. Thank you.
Thank you. And Bob, it's a great idea, getting together with the county. If we can get some wheel tax to help pay, that'd be awesome. But I gotta tell you, I don't think it's legally possible to have a county referendum for a city project. I don't think that's possible at all, but I'll check. Fran, you're up.
I'll pass. It's been pretty well covered. Thank you.
Oh, Brett, I thought.
Oh, Yeah, Fred, I don't have you on here. I got Fran. Fran.
Hi, Fran Makaroff at 2949 Lamberg. And I have wanted to point out first is that it would be so nice if, while you are coming from Plover over that bridge there, to be able to drive in to Stevens Point and have it looking nice. Because when you are traveling down Church Street, it's horrible. There's all kinds of bumpy roads, and the roads go like this. So, you know, and I have started having some problems with my car, and I have only moved up here since last November with the tires, you know, and my car was just fine down in the panhandle. So anyway, but yeah, I mean, and the thing that from the 3-lane to the 4-lane is something that I just do not agree with, because the 3-lane, you are still going to have traffic on both sides, but you are actually going to have that turning lane, because there are a lot of people that'll just jet right, you know, just right in the midst of all these cars, excuse me. And and I had voted no, just so you all know. Anyway, so, you know, I just wanted to point that out. And, you know, the thing that I do not get is that you have all these people that live beyond Church Street. You know, you have residential homes, you know, and people have to be able to walk, like going from one side to the other side and so on. But you have so many problems there. And I think having that bike lane on both sides for people to actually ride their bikes, which would be great, and also to be able to just have easy access for the average person who has to walk and who doesn't have a car, you know? So I just wanted to put that out there. The other thing is that, you know, when I had first saw the referendum, I was confused as heck. I asked so many questions, and I did so much research. I was still totally mystified. And then I have started listening to the pros and the cons. And the thing that I have always gone back to is that, you know, from Tampa, I mean, we had a board that truly listened to everybody all the time. I mean, and the minds were open to progress. And progress is what Stevens Point is lacking. You know, we have to build for the future of all these kids and the college grads and, you know, so on.
Thank you, Fran.
Okay. Thank you.
Wisconsin winters will do that to roads. It's terrible.
Yeah.
Kevin Fladoff.
Thank you, Mayor. Just doesn't make sense. Just doesn't make sense. Just doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense. 11 times, 12 with the mayor. I've heard it thousands of times in this community. It doesn't make sense. To go from 4 lanes down to 2 lanes doesn't make sense. I can repeat it to you people over and over and over again, but it doesn't make sense. The same thing when I came in here in December and said, irreversible. Do you remember that? When this is laid in concrete, it's irreversible. We're stuck with it for over 50 years. As president and chief financial officer of a corporation that has 2 businesses that have survived for over 20 years, I think I know a little something about fiscal responsibility. To not look at this road in a 4-lane manner and continue down the path and throw money at Aecom to design a 2-lane road that a large portion of Portage County does not want, that's fiscal irresponsibility. I want to thank the mayor for bringing this forward and for everybody to look at and consider, because a 2-lane road is fiscally irresponsible for Portage County, the city of Stevens Point, and anybody that travels this corridor. If we're going to spend over $50 million or close to on a road project, let's do it right. Let's spend some money, let's expand the research, let's make it work for everybody. We've tried to work with the city, we've tried to work with the city council, the Southside Business Association, all the people that have stepped up here. We've been cordial, we've been polite, we have been professional. That's what the Southside Business Association is all about. We want to work with you. I've offered 4 different options to Scott Badoon. Granted, I'm no engineer, but I have some good options and some good ideas. And I got the same answer every time. It's got to be a 2-lane road diet. That's not going to work, people. Let's pass this. Let's give Aecom some more money, and let's try and work together. Wouldn't that be nice if this could work for everybody, not just one side or the other? Mary McComb, I want to thank you for your comments. There is a reason we did a referendum, and it's because of your comments. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, our speaker list is exhausted. I think we all know how this is going to go.
Excuse me, I was signed up to speak on this.
I'm sorry, I do have a 15 maybe.
Thank you.
Carrie, by all means. Name and address again for the record, please.
Yep.
Thank you. They do.
Yep.
I guess we'll share.
Point of order, Mayor, I thought all documents were supposed to go to the city clerk.
That is not a policy. It should be, but it's not. We frequently have people that want to hand things out, like the pictures that were here earlier. I think it's appropriate as long as we stay on topic.
All right, thanks.
I'm not sure why we should accommodate
Name
people.
and address again?
Carrie Ryan, 1000 block of 5th Ave.
Thank you.
I'm not sure why we should accommodate people who chose not to participate. This has been going on since 2012, even longer since, the jurisdiction. I've been here my whole life. I know that this has been widely publicized. It's been on the city page, it's been in all kinds of papers. It's been noticed. You got postcards, you got door hangers, and if you say you don't, you're not being accurate, all right? I don't see why we should accommodate people who choose not to participate in public life when everybody else knows what's going on. Nobody elected the Southside Business Association to office. They do not have administrative powers in the city. They succeeded in bringing a legislative effort that requires transportation projects to go to a referendum, likely twice. It isn't a compromise to blur that distinction between the referendum and Business 51. There's a reason the direct legislation statute is written the way it is. Treating it as a proxy for specific administrative decisions, namely the redesign of Business 51, is a mistake. I know it was marketed as a proxy and that likely most of the votes in favor of the referendum intended it to be as such. So I'm sympathetic to your desire to react to it, and I am also sympathetic to the scale of the issue and the Southside Business Association's interest in it. However, I don't believe they approached the issue in good faith. The fact that they misused a legislative tool to try to address an administrative grievance is prima facie evidence in that regard. I'm aware that they don't believe city government approached the issue in good faith, but even if I set aside the evidence that they did, the bottom line is that city council are the people elected to make these decisions. I have not licked your efforts to play both sides, and I call on you to have courage to stand up for the elected government and not cave to bully tactics. Not even so much for the specifics as the long-reaching consequences that rewarding these types of tactics inevitably brings forth. The council, whether you agree with them or not, whether you like them or not, is fulfilling its role as an elected governing body for our city. I would argue that the process they engaged in, if you look at it objectively, was very responsible in regard to the Business 51 redesign. Either way, there's a group of people that strongly disagree with the outcome of the process, and again, I'm sympathetic to your disappointment, but I am not sympathetic to how you've channeled it. It feels like every opportunity they've had to engage in good faith, going back over a decade, before Shore or Johnson or any of the boogeymen in the current narrative, has been squandered. At some point, you can't ignore that the common denominator is the intransigence of a small, unelected, special interest group. Bottom line, who do I trust more? A group of our elected representatives charged with the interests of the entire city, or unelected businessmen with their own perceived interests in mind? And even in the aspects of this issue that are sometimes difficult, how seriously should I take the interests of a special interest group after they have demonstrated their bad faith as plainly as they have with this referendum?
Thank you. We have the handout, for those of you who didn't get it, talks about some information that's copied and pasted from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. There's quite a few links to what appear to be accidents of young children struck by cars and crosswalks. A copy of this will be available at the clerk's office beginning tomorrow morning if you need that.
Will it also be on the website?
No, we generally don't put those things on the website, but it will be available through open records at the clerk's office beginning, again, tomorrow. Brock, our speaker list is exhausted. Did you need something to say? Yeah. Did you speak already on this one? All right, then I will allow it, even though we needed you to sign up earlier.
Yeah, sorry, appreciate it. Brock Maddox, 5421 Pullover, or Monroe Avenue, Pullover, Wisconsin. You know, I've been coming to these meetings with these people, and from the first meeting, there's been a lot of people. Okay, I wasn't involved in this project back as far as this individual was talking about, but obviously there was a miscommunication here. A miscommunication, obviously. I believe we have a real opportunity here, and we can't let it slip past, because this road project is going to last for a long time. Do we want to have this division for that amount of time? I mean, we have a opportunity here to fix it and move on from it and do the right thing. And it's about doing the right thing. This is a real opportunity to come together, end a division, ease some tensions maybe. So I just encourage everybody to use some discretion, some tolerance.
Thank you, Brock. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
All right, Alder Fischler, your hand shot up twice, so thank you for waiting and being patient while everybody had a chance to speak. The floor is yours.
I would like to make a motion to postpone any decision to be made tonight, and move this discussion to Public Works Committee for review to include Aecom and the DOT, if possible.
Okay, you want to have, I just want to understand what you're saying. We're going to send this back, go to Public Works, and at some point in the near future, I don't know if we'll have the ability to do it next month yet, but in the near future, have Aecom and a representative from the DOT present for a question and answer session.
Well, there's obviously still a lot of questions from all of these people here. And I think it needs to be addressed as to, you know, what can be done and what can't be, and what's within the realm of, you know, the federal standards. And I think that's really important.
Okay, and we'll, I expect it'll be a pretty big turnout, so we'll see if we can't get a little bigger venue to get everybody here. But if that's the wishes, then let's do that. That sounds like a great start. Is there a second to that? Seconded by President Johnson. Okay, discussion on that motion. Alderman Morrow.
I think this is a mistake. Elections have, I mean, we just had an election on this. You may not like how the outcome was. Just like in any election, you may not you may not like who won. You may not like the outcome, but it was a fair and free. It was fair and a free election. It doesn't matter if someone won by 37 votes or 1 vote. I mean, the referendum did actually pass. I mean, this is a once in a lifetime thing for us to do. I think we should end up having it done right. I think what the mayor is trying to do is the right is actually the right thing. You know, Brock talked about elections. We just had one, and there was a lot of debate on what people did and did not know about it. There was confusion about this and that, but that happens in every election. I mean, the people have, I mean, the referendum won. I mean, you may not like it. I mean, I voted against it, but it won, just like being on the city council. I mean, I don't win every vote, but that's part of the, I mean, that's what democracy looks like. You're not going to win every vote, but then you move on and you try again, and that's just part of what the legislative process is. I think this is a mistake for us. We're not moving forward. We're just going to be doing what the county does, push things off, kick the can down the road more and more and more. As Holman said, they have a trophy case of studies, and this is where we're going to be headed towards, and not actually getting anything done. Does anyone remember the courthouse? So I think this is a big mistake for us. I think we have a way that we can move forward with this, look at other options, as opposed to throwing it back to whatever, to have it throw back to the Public Works Committee and so on. I think this is a mistake. We had the election. I wasn't for it, but it is what it is.
Thank you, Alderperson. I just need to be clear too, because it sounds like there might still be some confusion. This has nothing to do with the referendum. The referendum passed, it was certified. We are bound and obligated to follow that until such time as another referendum turns it over within 2 years, I think the timeline is. So it's not about the referendum. This is just about coming back and trying to find a better product. Okay, Alder Shore.
Thanks, and I was going to say something about that. I mean, if I would say anything about this council, I don't think we're going to punt. The courthouse is one of the most difficult and maybe too difficult for us to resolve, but this is a council with a proud record of stepping up and dealing with difficult issues. You know, on Church Street, for me, one of two things would be really helpful. Either you know, there's some portion of Church Street maybe where the added cost would be minimized versus the entire stretch, or knowing that the public is up for paying the additional cost. Yeah, advisory referendum versus direct legislation, and so it was an interesting scenario raised about if the community had voted 80% for 4 lanes on Church Street. That would have helped me, because my main concern is the additional cost, and I probably would have gone along with it. Instead, we do have this broad gauge referendum, and you know, we're looking at some unintended consequences. So many of these points I have made before, but
The most important thing for me in relation to this proposal is actually to differentiate between Church Street and North Division. I've said many times, bike and pedestrian friendliness on Church Street is a lower priority for me, similar to Highway 10. The strip mall development pattern is established. There might be ways to get away from it over time, and we have President Johnson's interesting idea of a targeted area master plan, but meanwhile, it is what it is. And the other reason it's not a top concern for me is that we got buffered bike lanes on Water Street. They're there. 1 block to the west, same commuting route, I'm good. So North Division, really coming to what I want to talk about, for me is much more different from Church Street than it is like Church Street. We're seeing exciting mixed-use development. We're succeeding. We have a targeted area master plan that says we want more mixed use. We got more residences being built, the Reserve, on the motel site, the convent. The purchase of the laundromat was mentioned, and I think it's very much on point. And I'm just going to make a couple final points here about the pedestrian walkway and then about the roundabout. So the purchase of the laundromat and the preparation of the pedestrian walkway is something that I pushed for. It's something I'm quite passionate about. Alder Kneebone often says that urban planning is sexy. Well, I happen to think walkability is sexy. And I have, for a long time, felt it's a crime that campus is separated from Division by this long stretch from 4th Avenue all the way to Maria Drive. So I think that foot traffic patronizing local businesses is sexy as hell. And that's what this is about. That's what walkability is about. That's what we're aiming for and succeeding on North Division. So no, I don't want to set up a new walkway, breaking some of the division from campus, and bringing some of that foot traffic out to those businesses, only to have them faced with 4 lanes of traffic. Just last comment on the roundabout. If there's one place in town where pedestrians should be the priority, should take the precedence, I think it's at 4th Avenue and Division. I mean, we've all driven by the gyms on 4th Avenue and seen that, that you have to defer to the pedestrians there. And I realize it's not exactly the same, but it's only a block and a half or a block down. This is the roundabout, just so everyone understands, is not, the big swooping roundabout like up at Century. We're talking about something much narrower where everyone is going to have to slow down and pay attention, and that's the point, is because that's a place where pedestrians should be the priority. So I just kind of wanted to highlight those points. I think, I'm more interested in a discussion of Church Street than I am of North Division.
Thank you. President Johnson.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Hi. My name is Melissa Johnson, and you've probably heard my name mentioned as the villain who caused all the problems. So I'll accept it. I entered this role in political life knowing that I'd probably take some hits. I've had a bad, sometimes disturbing past life, and it probably set me up for taking all the hits that are coming my way, and I'm fine with that because I feel strongly that I make good decisions based on sound information. Big shoulders, or as my mom used to say, I had big bones, so I can carry the weight. I'm happy to do that. Grand Avenue, I travel Grand Avenue frequently. I work for Marathon County. I was rear-ended on Grand Avenue 2 times, making a left-hand turn in the inner lane, and it was a distracted driver going too fast. So Grand Avenue is probably not a great example. I try now to not take Grand Avenue, and I'll take Thomas Street now that it's nicely redone. I have memories of Church Street too. My memories of Church Street were when I lived in Whiting on Strange Street. Is it Strange Street or Strange Avenue? I forget which. 11. My parents moved there when I was 11, the oldest of 5. And I remember walking from my house in Strange Street with my 4 siblings. I was the oldest, so hand in hand, come on, they've got to come with me. And how many of you who live on Church Street remember the A&W on the south side? It's about where the Walgreens was. And I'd have my siblings in tow, and I was responsible for getting them across the street from the west side to the east side. And we could do that safely back then. I'd love to see that opportunity in the future. I remember Kellerman's Pharmacy and Richard's Drive-In. I have fond memories of a Church Street that is much different than it is today. When I made my decision on the recommended alternative, and again, as the mayor said, we were presented with one, I was focused, and I attended one meeting, by the way. I was focused on safety, multimodal transportation opportunities, reducing environmental impacts, reducing private property right impact, and also funding. That's what guided me, and it will still guide me in my decision-making. I appreciate the motion by Alder Fischler. My grandmother always told me these 4 rules. Always tell your friends you love them, and I do. Never go to bed angry. This one, never leave the house unless you've got clean underwear. And of course, don't make decisions in haste in an emotionally charged setting. Always take the time to think about what decisions you want to make. So I appreciate the motion, and I'll support it. And I also hope that in the future, we can do a targeted area master plan to include the new Steel King TIF along with the Church Street corridor. Let's create a vision for the future, not my vision of my siblings and I going to the A&W, but that future vision of another family enjoying that corridor, walking to Hardee's or Arby's or to Walgreens or whatever is along that corridor. Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity
Thank you,
to speak.
President Johnson. Again, the motion before you is to postpone and have a larger public input meeting with the Department of Transportation and Aecom. If we could keep our comments relevant to the motion, that would be appreciated. Alder Christensen, then Alder Kiemer.
I think it's a good idea. I'm very supportive of that motion. I think it'll give us a chance to take a look at things. As I take a look at the original proposal, I have a hard time with the north segment. And I met with the mayor last Friday, and I explained I have all the way from Brawley up to Maria, and from 4th up to Maria, I actually have both sides of division. My district actually, on the referendum, voted 62% to 38% against the referendum. The people on that, I try to get out there, and I've talked to a lot of people. I spend a lot of time trying to get feedback from both sides. I'm not hearing the support for the 4 lanes on the north side. It's the most heavily populated, most densely populated area in this entire city, and it's only getting more densely populated. And only a block away, you have all of the dorms. We're adding the Banter apartments. We have the Reserve. We have the Grove being developed, and so I think it'd be short-sighted. I do think that this motion is well conceived, and it will give us a chance to take a look at things and not make decisions in haste. And I think the more information we get in a calm fashion, and I do appreciate, I got appointed at that September meeting, and so I was there. I got a chance. I took my oath of office at 12:15 in the morning. So I've been involved in this from the very beginning. I also, even before I was on council, did attend a number of the public meetings and the Zoom meetings and all those types of things. So I do think there's some really good information that a lot of people haven't had a chance to take in yet. And so I do think having that presentation by Aecom, and, you know, I think I was one of the 2 people at that meeting. So my experience, it was valuable, and it helped inform my viewpoint now, and I think it'd be well served for everyone to have that same opportunity, so.
Thank you, and I agree. I think it's a great idea. It's a step forward. Alder Kiemer.
Yeah, I would just say that, you know, at that future meeting that we have, what would be really helpful is to just know where we have left off. Because when this referendum first became on the ballot, the Board of Public Works was asked to put this Business 51 redesign on hold and wait until the referendum to move forward with design. And so I guess if we're not scrapping the plans, if we're building off of them and improving them and modifying, which sounds wonderful, what is the next step? And I guess based on, I was looking at the financial timeline that Comptroller Laddick had put forward last November. And he, you know, again, that was at that point of time, the ideas that he was looking at, and it was saying that the north segment of Business 51 would come first, then the south, then the center. If that's true, does the design for north need to come first? Is that more time, you know, pressured? So I guess just kind of having more of a timeline in terms of what comes next, so that we are really mindful of how we spend those engineering dollars.
Excellent. And as the comptroller said, the north section is going to predominantly be covered by the TIF.
Yes.
The life of the TIF is finite, and it's running out. So if we did it today, we'd have more money and more
Yes.
repayment time available.
Yeah.
If we do it 6 years from now.
Yeah, so it seems prudent to
significantly
move
smaller.
forward on that as quickly as possible. And I will just echo what Alder Christensen said about the north segment. You know, from what I hear from my constituents in that middle residential core, there is a fair amount of consensus on the north and the center. And I think a lot of the contention is on the south. And I think that's where we can focus a lot of time on alternatives and modifications, is in that area.
Great. I think we're close to consensus here, so are we ready to vote?
I just have one quick comment.
Urban planner.
Yeah, the
Urban planning is sexy, we know.
When I first voted to approve the 4-3, it was because it was presented as the safest, the most likely to get a federal grant, not that it would guarantee a grant, and it was the least expensive cost to the taxpayers. I just had a conversation with my neighbor who's lived in my neighborhood longer than me about moving because he can almost no longer afford his property taxes, and they're a 2-income household working, not like my retired 2-income household. So anything that's going to significantly raise property taxes or lower the tax base, it could create a real bad unintended consequence. People may move, or people may lose their homes because they can no longer afford their property taxes. I like the idea of postponing. I think it's important to bring more information back. I would like to find out if we went, I don't think we can take the north and the middle section. I don't think we can go 4-3-4. You create 2 choke points that are going to be just a massive traffic headache. I'd like to see 4-3 at least on the north side and the middle section. We can, if they want to make Church Street a dragway like the one down in Plover, I just drive through. I don't even know what businesses are down there anymore because I use it just to go from one place to another. I don't stop when the road's that wide, but if that's what those guys want, that's okay. But I would like to see the cost involved in that option, how many properties would be lost, how much that takes off our tax base, because I think that's a double whammy. It's not just what it costs, it's how much are we going to lose as a result of adding 8 feet on either side of the roadway to make it safe. And meet the requirements of the Transportation Department and the State Transportation Department. So I think postponing is a good idea for a bit, but I'd like to see that information come back as well. So thank you.
Yep, I made all sorts of notes.
Thanks.
Seriously, we made more progress tonight than I've seen in a long time. I do have a question for you, since you made the motion. There's gonna be a cost to have Aecom to another meeting. Are we authorizing that cost as part of your motion? I don't know what it's gonna be. Maybe Director Badoon can give us a ballpark. Shouldn't be too terribly much, and maybe, out of the goodness of their heart, they'll do it for what we've already paid them. But generally, there's an additional cost.
They have money in their contract left.
I'll have Director Badoon come in. Sorry, we're done with public comments.
I'm asking if we can have the DOT come to adjust.
Oh, yeah, no, DOT's free.
yeah.
DOT's gonna do it, they're already paid.
We already paid them.
Sorry, I wasn't clear enough on that. So we'll have Director Badoon come in here to see if he can give us a guesstimate, but Alder Fischler, you have the floor.
I was also thinking it'd be really beneficial for people to see exactly what the preliminary plans were that we had to choose from on the south side. I think that's extremely important.
Those should still be available on the website.
Because I just want to note that the 4-lane option that was proposed originally by Aecom had the medians in them, and businesses did not want those. So that's why I had voted for the other option. So I think it's really important just to have a big meeting that's not contentious to show that, and then also show what was voted on and why by council. And then maybe if there's, discussion to talk about if there is any room for other alterations on the south side specifically.
Great. And seriously, way better idea than what I came up with. As I said, it was just a starting point though, and we got there. Director, I know you can't speak for Aecom. However, in your best professional guesstimate, do you think there'll be an extra charge? And if so, do you have a ballpark number so we can get that authorized as part of the motion to show up at one more meeting, plan in a couple of hours?
Show up at one more meeting in a couple hours. Gosh,
It's got to be less than, let's say, $15,000, right?
Oh, gosh, yeah.
Okay,
Thanks
so
for that.
if the council is comfortable, and
That's a big
it won't
number,
be
John.
that much, because we have precedent, because we had a change order, if you recall, to meet with some of the south side businesses. So we have a ballpark idea already. But if we could include the cost no greater than $15,000 to attend this meeting,
I was
as part
gonna
of the
say
motion.
I won't
5.
charge nearly that much.
Yeah, I was gonna say, do we still have money left on that change order, Director, do you know?
I would have to look into
How
that.
about if we do this? Because we're gonna have to have a special meeting on the 29th
There
for
we
the
go.
4
Yeah,
referendum
I'd rather
questions
have that.
anyway?
Yeah.
Why don't you, we'll call, if this passes, call tomorrow and ask them what they would charge to be on a meeting. We can throw that on with the 4 referendum questions we'll have in the special meeting on the 29th. Is that acceptable?
Yes.
Just so I'm otherwise clear, so it's really just attendance. Do you want anything as far as additional preparation? Are they showing up with anything?
Well,
Presentation of any sort?
So you and I can talk about this tomorrow.
Okay.
Maybe we can even get Alder Fischler or any of the other alderpersons involved. But I've got some notes already, just talking about what possibilities there might be, ballpark estimates on what it costs, because we will not have total costs on any property acquisition or changes. We don't get that until the design is almost all done. So all we can do is estimate at this point, but we can get that information. It sounds like we would like to see maybe some physical copies. I know it's still on the website, but maybe some physical copies of the alternatives that they already have designed, stuff we've already paid for, and use that as a starting point. What if we do this and not this, or whatever, just
Okay, that
physical
gives me an idea.
copies.
That gives me an idea.
And then you and I are gonna talk about a bigger venue too, because
Sure.
this room isn't gonna cut it.
All right.
All right, so if you are in favor of the motion, and I'm gonna restate the motion to my recollection, if I'm wrong, let me know. We are postponing action until such time as we can get a special Board of Public Works meeting, have the Department of Transportation represented and Aecom represented in a public forum to talk specifically about alternatives or possible changes to Business 51's design.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, if you're in favor of that motion, you'll vote yes. If you are opposed, you'll vote no, and the clerk will call the roll.
Morrow.
No.
Fischler.
Aye.
Dalton.
Aye.
Shuda.
Aye.
Kneebone.
Aye.
Carlson.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Sarazua.
Aye.
Keimer.
Aye.
Shore.
Aye.
Christensen.
Aye.
And by majority consent, that is approved. Thank you all very much. It was productive, more productive than I expected. We are adjourned at 9:15. Cormac is still here. Cormac, could you adjourn us, please? 2 more very firm raps of the gavel, buddy. Yep. Perfect.
Good job.
A video of this meeting is available for viewing on the city's website, stevenspoint.com/videos.